Hello, you guys. Welcome. It is me, Danielle Carmelita, your favorite tarot reader and astrologer. Welcome. In this video, we are talking about Saturn and the planet, which is the planet of karma, responsibility, and structure. It's going to retrograde in the sign Aries. Okay, the sign of independence, the sign of self, the sign of action, the sign of newness and leadership. And we are going to be going through what that means for you, what that means for the collective, what predictions do we have? Okay, checking our impulses, checking our reassessing who's going to be the leader. Redefining things, repeating things, redoing things. We're going to talk about all of that, and we're going to talk about it now.
3, 2, 1.
I love you.
Okay. I am new to this, so I'm making sure I'm pressing all of the right buttons. Okay. But before we get started, everyone, we are talking about this Saturn and it's going to be retrograding. And if you're already questioning everything, chill, relax. Okay. This is the place to be. Okay. Anyway, I got distracted. I'm trying to read my notes and I wasn't focused. Okay. If you want to know more about astrology, you love this. You love what I'm going to be giving you because I haven't given it to you yet, but just know it's going to be good. Please don't forget to handle all the business. Subscribe, like, thumbs up, hit that bell. All that helps me. If you're listening to this via podcast, welcome. Thank you for listening. Get excited because I'm going to go through everything. Also, I have a community. It does cost $4.99 a month, and I've already went through Saturn retrograde in Aries. That was like my most recent post, and it's a survival kit, and it's going over the whole complete timeline, and it gives predictions over the timeline, some key dates. Also, I talk about some bonus tips and guidance on how to navigate this rare Saturn in Aries at 0 degrees that's conjunct Neptune. I talk about all that in my post, so go ahead and check out that. The link is down below. If you're like, here, I don't have no money, come on, do you know the economy? I have some free stuff. Okay, so check out the free stuff down below. All that. My newsletter is free. I go over the transits every week, so sign up for my newsletter. And in my newsletter, I do give bonus tips and how to work astrology. I even sometimes pull tarot. All that is free, so go ahead and check that link down below. And let's get started what we have here. Okay, so the key dates here is that Saturn retrogrades July 12th at 9 p.m. Okay, as I'm doing this live, it is July 10th, and then it will stay in retrograde all the way till November 27th of 2025. Okay, now it's going to go 0 degrees. That's very important. This is a very rare thing, going 0 degrees and conjuncting Neptune. These are rare things, but it's going to go 0 degrees August 15th, 2025. And then it will enter Pisces September 1st of 2025 at 29 degrees. That's important because that talks about degrees are very important in astrology. It talks about an urgency to close things up, and it will be retrograding. And then November 27th of 2025, it goes direct. It will stop retrograding. And what is making, it's, I don't even know if you can hear that, but my phone's ringing. And then February 4th, Pisces degree, again, 29 degrees. It will be going back from retrograding. Actually, let me show you. Let me do one better and show you here, okay? I'm hoping this is large enough. But here's Saturn. So it will be retrograding and it will enter 0 degrees. And you see it sitting next to Neptune. And then it will be, Neptune is retrograding currently too. Then it will hit 0 degrees. That'll be really important. Then after it hits 0 degrees, let me see if I can show you this. After it hits 0 degrees, then it'll hit 29 degrees and it will enter Pisces, and that will be September 1st. And then after it enters Pisces, it will stop retrograding, right? And it will go all the way to 25 degrees. It will stop retrograding. When it stops being in red is when it stops retrograding, and that's going to be February. It goes direct November 24th, and then it will be back at 29 degrees February 4th. No. Yes, February 4th, it will be back at 29 degrees of Pisces, and it will re-enter February 13th of 2026, okay? So we got a whole year of this energy, not a year, but, all the way until next year of this energy. In April 2028, in Aries, it will be at 29 degrees, and it will enter Taurus. That's in the future. But in 2028, all this energy, we will be talking about some new spicy stuff. Okay. But yes, so that is what we currently have, and the dates. Okay. So important dates to remember. Just so if you're listening and I was just doing too much now, I'm going to simplify it. It retrogrades July 12th. July 12th, we're going to be seeing some interesting feelings and a lot of collective energy. Okay. And I'll talk about that. Then it'll go in 0 degrees, potent degree, and it'll be retrograding. Okay. That is going to be August 15th. That is when it will hit 0 degrees. And then it will hit 29 degrees in Pisces. That's September 1st. So these dates are really important and it'll come back up. But just so you know, the recent dates of what's important here. Okay. So now let me tell you about some Saturn themes here. Saturn is a very important. Okay. Okay. That was interesting. I am in a new system, you guys. I hope you understand. I'm in a new streaming service. So, yeah. And let me just add back to my screen here. If you guys are listening to this via podcast, my whole thing just turned off and whatever. Still work in progress. It's okay. I'm learning. Okay. So that's that Uranus and Gemini, just so you know. Okay. So Saturn themes. Okay. We're going to talk about Saturn and why is Saturn retrograding so important for you, the individual, the collective. Okay. And the reason why it's important is because Saturn represents discipline. Saturn is the planet of obedience, it's the planet of responsibility, boundaries, structure, time, maturity, aging, mortality, authority. Anybody in a uniform. So, like a police officer, the structure, a corporation, that is Saturn, okay? Any CEOs, Saturn. Also, it represents the government. You don't have to be where I'm from, it's your government, okay? Any type of rules or regulation, that's Saturn. Any type of authority figures, Saturn. Any institution, the hospital, the prison system, Saturn. Saturn also is the planet of karma. It's also the planet of fear, limitations, poverty, scarcity. It's very pessimistic. It's cold, okay? Stability and structure, commitment, achievement, long-term energy. Hence, we had that time. Father of time. It's also control and mastery. Any type of test, any type of challenge, that's the planet Saturn, okay? Also, Saturn represents isolation. It rules over Capricorn. Capricorn is also during wintertime. During wintertime, you can feel a little isolated. Saturn also represents legacy and tradition, conservative energy. Okay. So now Aries. Let's quickly talk about what Aries is. Aries is the Saturn's in the sign Aries. Okay. And Aries is the energy of initiation, new beginnings. It is the beginning, it's the start of, okay? And so this is going to be very interesting because we have, and that's what makes this all interesting because Saturn is in a planet of beginnings and is going to the planet of endings where it just left, okay? Pisces represents endings, but Aries is also very courageous, is very brave because it's the first, it's the new, it's the start, very independent, is very impulsive. It represents anger, aggression, leadership, trailblazer because it's the first. A lot of physical energy, the physical body, like sports and athletes, also represents Aries. Physical energy, conflict, confrontation. Aries ruler planet is Mars. Mars is the ruler of war. Okay, so speed, urgency, self discovery, a lot of the hero, the warrior, innocent also too, because it's starting something new. It's the first, so it's a little like naive, very impulsive. First impressions, war, battle. I said that. Personal identity is about the self, the singular, the uno, the one. Yes, self assertion, initiation, fearless, anger, rage. And it's very interesting because Saturn represents fear and Aries is very brave. We'll talk about that and what that represents. Also, a lot of rebellion and very explosive and like a sense of urgency. Okay, so now you have Saturn, which I explained, and then I talked about the energy that it's in. So the planet is currently in this energy of first, of newness, of starting, of beginnings, of warriors. Okay, now let me just tell you what retrograde means. Okay, anytime a planet retrogrades, it's basically like the planet is now slowly moving. It was moving. It was like, I'm going to set these limits. I'm going to set these standards. I'm going to set these boundaries. I'm going to set these long-term goals. I'm going to restrict. I'm going to make you limited, right? And now it's slowing down. Now it's not working the way that it normally works. And now you were comfortable in this energy. You were comfortable in restrictions and limitations and long-term goals and the details and focusing on time and commitment and structure. And now that energy is not going to be working. Okay. Starting July 12th, that energy is going to make you reflect and redo. It's going to slow up. Okay. So it's like you have your hands and you're used to having fingers or your hands, and now God has taken those hands and fingers away. Okay, if you're right-handed, now you got to use your left hand. And now when you use your left hand, now instead of using your right hand, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to slow up. I have to think before I do. Okay, now Saturn is not the planet of thinking. Saturn is a planet of limitations and restructuring and structure, not restructuring, but structure. So now everything is reversed and things are more internal. Okay. Now you're reflecting, you're redoing, you're internalizing, you're revisiting any of the RE words, repeating, redoing, rethinking, revision. Okay. All that happens. Also, anytime a planet retrogrades, old themes come back because now you're repeating the things that you were doing in the past. You're moving backwards. And it's like, wait a minute, I was just doing this. Well, it's coming back. Okay. So this is a time for reflection, reviewing, reorganizing, reclaiming, releasing anything. The planet isn't broken. Okay. So it is working. However, you have to do more work. This is a time to really reflect on the themes that I just explained with Saturn. I'm saving this live, so don't worry. But all the retrogrades, especially in Saturn, is going to be very karmic. A lot of what karma you put out there is the karma that comes back. Saturn is the planet of lessons and teachings, and in the retrogrades, know that those lessons and teachings will be strong. Okay. Now, any type of themes, anytime Saturn retrogrades in any sign, Aries and Pisces. And so, since it's going to be retrograding in both signs, we'll discuss both. You're going to not discuss both, but just talk about the general themes of Saturn right now. Okay. Anytime Saturn retrogrades, you're going to be reevaluating your responsibilities. Okay. You're going to be forced to reconsider your obligations and truly carry those things out. Now, karmic lessons are going to be coming out anytime a planet retrogrades. So, the karma, the energy that you put out, not just the energy, you know how like when I think of karma, I usually think like, oh, I gave them good energy, so I got good energy. It's not just that. Did you put in the work? If you didn't put in the work, then the energy is going to be lazy. Speaking of, I did a whole video on Ozempic and I explained the connection to astrology with Ozempic. It's really quick. It's a quick video. Go ahead. That was my last post. Anyway, delays in career or any type of authority figures. That happens anytime Saturn is retrograding. Accountability, but now it's your inner accountability. Are you accountable? Are you following the rules? Did you cheat the system? Okay. Structural weakness are revealed. So any type of system where the structure is not a foundation to depend on will crack. Okay. Commitment. Saturn is about commitment. And when Saturn retrogrades, it's going to test your endurance. Are you not passionate enough? If the passion is not strong enough, then it's not going to work. Okay. Saturn retrograding is about facing your fears and facing anything that you're scared to fail at or anything you're scared to succeed at. That insecurity, that imposter syndrome is going to come up when Saturn is retrograding. Breaking free from any toxic discipline. Rigid routines, punishing yourself because you have a high standard. You want to be the greatest of all time and you're stepping on everyone to be the greatest of all time. And all that is going to be coming back and resurfacing. Okay. Healing any type of father wounds. Okay. Saturn represents the father. So if you have any father issues, any issues with the patriarch, then that's going to be coming up because it doesn't have to be just your father. It could be your grandfather or your father's side of the family. Okay. So breaking down the foundations, perceptions of time, that's going to be being pushed more, like really slowing things down or moving faster. Aries likes to move fast. Now, when it's in when Saturn is retrograding in a sign Aries. Okay. Now we're going to talk about Aries. This is going to probably be a time to pause. Okay. Saturn already wants to move slow, but Aries wants to move fast. So now you're pausing because you need to have a purposeful action. Aries represents the action. Is there purpose behind your action? Okay. Instead of sprinting forward, Saturn retrograde is going to say, I need you to stop. I need you to think about the details. I need you to think about the long-term consequences because you're just being impulsive and you're just moving fast. Okay. So you have that. So you're slowing down, you're asserting yourself, and you're being smarter. Okay. Strategic silence, waiting, withholding action. Also, it's going to be talking about the consequences and responsibility of yourself. Aries represents yourself. Any type of self accountability or consequences or responsibility is going to come up. Okay. Saturn in Aries is going to say, own your ambition and make it your own. Okay. Obedience and free will, resistance to have control, responsibility on your own terms. That could also be a possibility happening for you or the collective while Saturn's retrograding. Okay. Now, leadership. Okay, who's the president? Mercury is going to be retrograding in Leo too. So, leadership, leadership, leadership. Okay, anyone who's too loud, too much, too impulsive, that's going to be brought up, and get ready for that. You don't have to be an astrologer or to predict that, or a tarot reader. Okay, restructuring identity too. Aries represents the self, and there has to be a restructuring of the self, of the identity of who you are. So maybe self-discipline, self-trust, maybe something like a personal timeline, you're changing that. Okay, anger management and accountability for that. Okay, Aries is the fire, Aries is the anger. Saturn says control your anger. Okay. Control that mother effing anger. Okay. Stop using that as a weapon. Stop using it as a tool, because now karma's coming to bite that ass. Okay. Borders. Um, Saturn in Aries is in my last year video. I did this last year. I talked about the war on borders. This will be coming up. You're talking about that ice situation. Ice would be Saturn, right? Saturn represents the cold, and ice is very icy. Okay. And it's talking about the borders, very much so. So, the borders, that's going to be coming back up. Not that it's left, but we'll see a lot of things, big themes in that. Either it'll be more strict, or there'll be more fear, or there'll be pessimism with the idea of it. Don't worry, it'll be retrograding, and then it'll be coming back direct, and we'll be revisiting it then. Okay. So, yeah. So, who is the independent? Who belongs to the country? All that, and especially with Jupiter in Cancer, we have those things. Okay. Authority and leadership. I talked about that. Challenges with that. Anyone in a uniform role, there will be some challenges like the military, the police, the National Guard, all that. The government's going to have some backlash, and that's going to be coming back up. So look out for that. Okay, so aging and elders. Saturn retrograding in Aries. Okay, Saturn rules anything aging. So any father figure or elder or mentor who's getting older, there's an Aries energy is more about the fight. Okay, so fighting the passage of time, staying youthful, or confronting mortality and death. All that's going to be coming up. Reckoning with how quickly time passes, especially with Aries energy. Fear of losing your independence too. That is that getting older, and now that could be resurfacing for the collective. Traditional themes. So it doesn't have to just be, it could be a traditional routine or a tradition of your country or your culture. And now that's aging out, or there is got to be something more about the self, the independence. Okay. Fear of losing independence. Already we're facing physical realities of the body too. And Aries represents the head and the face. So it could be some aging far as the face for a lot of people, okay? Especially if it hits a personal planet in your chart, okay? So reclaiming personal strength through aging. Now, corporations and institutions. This is another prediction while Saturn is retrograding in Aries, okay? Corporate leaders. Aries represents leaders. So I would say this is more for the CEOs, okay? Also, there is going to be a lot of not just like a corporation going on its own and saying, like, I want to separate, like let's say Uber, the company has like several companies that they own, and one says, I want to be more independent. That could be happening, but that will be tested, that will be reviewed, that will be, my way or the highway kind of energy. So that could be happening too. I said CEOs, launches, unethical moves may be resurfacing. Oh yeah, even looking at the foundations of a company, that could be like, we got to restructure that. Ooh, and we see that already happening with Elon Musk and X. Someone already resigned. So let's see what that has. I haven't looked at his chart personally. I do know he has Neptune in Aries. Aries, he has an MC in Aries. Aries rules his 10th house. So this will be very interesting. This will 100% affect his corporation and his business. Okay. Government. Speaking of Elon Musk, government also is going to be some issues there. Saturn represents the government and who's in charge, the leadership. So governments may be walking back some legislation, especially anything dealing with war, weapons, or your identity, the self. Okay. Get ready for that. Retrograde periods may bring court cases, reversals, in anything dealing with the law or constitutional debates. All that happens. Aries adds the heat, though. It adds the fire. So expect some passionate energy with the government. Okay. Clarity comes through slowing down, though. Karma and life lessons. I'm pretty sure I talked about all that, but I just want to reiterate there's going to be a lot of relearning because Saturn is about the hardcore lessons. You know, when you have your Saturn return, that's a lesson. So you have that happening: self-discipline, accountability, fears around survival, around control, around even being relevant. Important, okay? Because that Saturn is all about like everyone, not like everyone look at me, I'm on stage, but your reputation is the key word. Saturn retrograding in Aries too. Commitment, rethinking personal commitments, rethinking fear of like being limited, and fear of just pessimism, fear of failing to be first, or doing it first, or being a leader, or being courageous. Saturn retrograde exposes that inner critic. So if you have any doubt, if you have any fear, if you feel like you're not measuring up, or you feel like I'm slowing down, that Saturn's going to bring that up. And these are all going to be lessons. A lot of challenges with Saturn as a whole, and Saturn retrograding in Aries, you may feel like your progress is at a stall, it's not moving. You know, like I'm here sitting here on YouTube and there's 3 people watching this. And so you feel like the pessimism, the negative. However, Saturn is long term energy. So if you stay consistent and think more long term and not in the here and now, Saturn will always work. A lot of people don't like Saturn. I find Saturn to be very positive. Saturn is in my 10th house, and Saturn in my 10th house represents you're in it for the long haul, Danielle. Think long term, don't think short term. So don't think TikTok, think YouTube. Okay. So also tradition, I talked about that. There could be some rebellions on tradition. Aries wants to innovate and wants to bring something new, and Saturn says, but don't forget about the foundation. And so when you have the retrograde, there could be some rebellion or some exposing of that energy of like, this is new and this was what this was the traditional way of doing that. Watch out for those tug of wars of that. Now, Saturn also is about achievement, control, and mastery. Again, the greatest of all time. Saturn represents the goat. So you do have that, and you're going to be revisiting this. Okay. Also, too, we have the North Node in Pisces, and at Pisces North Node for this year, we're supposed to be releasing things and not trying to be so perfect and analytical and judgmental. So release more focus on the water energy, not so much of the earth energy. And that Saturn energy is more earth, like that Capricorn. Okay. Isolation. Prisons, hospitals. Let's see what happens with that. Any type of new hospital or any type of hospital on fire or at a war, these themes will be coming up. Watch out for that. Yeah, but this season is about quiet building. Aries wants us to charge ahead, but Saturn asks what will actually last. Okay. Now, let me give you some examples here. So, for example, a president or a CEO could be investigated during this retrograde, or resigning. Let's see if that happens. Anything dealing with military, like maybe the military was having some abuse, or maybe the police had some investigations that could be coming up. Someone leaves a high powered job, which I talked about with X, that could be coming up. Okay, very prestigious kind of job. Again, CEOs, the leaders, corporations, all that. Again, I talked about Ozempic. That was a prime example. And watch out for the secrets being told. Once Neptune was retrograding, people who were on any type of testosterone or any type of that kind of energy that came out. Cold plunges is random, but a cold plunge in your body, and Aries represents your body, all that, and age, cold plunging. So I just wrote that in my notes. This is so random, but yeah. Okay, so let me tell you about the current transits here, and let me pull up this chart again. Actually, let me see if I can um I was trying to see if I can just bring up the chart. Okay. Yes, here we go. Okay, so here is the chart, people. And in this chart, I want you to see what we have going on. Okay. First, I want you to understand that Pluto is retrograding already. Okay. Neptune is going to be retrograding. Actually, this is not the current time. Neptune is, where's my Neptune? Neptune is retrograding. Okay. Mercury, I want you to understand that Mercury is in a pre shadow phase of retrograding, and it will officially retrograde July 17th. Okay. So on the 17th, that will be retrograding. Okay. Now, Uranus just entered Gemini, that's at 0 degrees. Okay. We just had the Capricorn full moon. Saturn represent that. That was yesterday. How are you guys doing with that Capricorn full moon? But because of those things, I want you to understand the importance of it. And then these two are conjunct, they're hugging. Conjuncts mean that it's conjuncts. Conjunct means uh, that the planet has, it's not just acting on its own. It's like acting as a couple. You know that annoying couple? It's like, well, I just invited you. Why is your husband here? Or why your boyfriend here? Or why she always got to come with us? Well, Neptune, you invite Saturn, and now Neptune's joining the party. Okay, so we'll explain that. But first, let me talk about Pluto retrograding. Pluto retrograding in the sign Aquarius. That is a lot of freedom of speech, power to the people. Anyone who is like fighting for the underdog, revisiting anything very futuristic in AI. So we currently have that going on. All right. Then you have Neptune retrograding, and Neptune is going to lift up all the secrets. So currently, any conspiracy or theories about secrets or things like we didn't see that coming. That Neptune retrograding means we will see it coming. The fog is lifted. So Neptune retrograding is actually a blessing. However, there is some redoing and some repeating on some collective love. Neptune represents a collective. It represents romance. It represents sacrificing, charities. So all that is slowing down. So you do have that happening, and you're revisiting that, and you're redoing that. Now, yes, Mercury, which I've done a whole video on that. So check that out. Mercury retrograding in Leo. Now that is going to be a big doozy. Okay. So Mercury retrograding in Leo, this is going to be, again, a lot of discussions with the presidents and leaders. I do understand that Trump has a rising sign Leo, and Mercury retrograding will be hitting some of his planets. But let's just say we didn't know his chart. As a general prediction, Mercury retrograding in Leo is a lot of conflict, a lot of rumors about leaders, a lot of rumors about celebrities. So get ready for that. Now, Uranus being at 0 degrees in Gemini, this is out of the blue conversations and gossip. Okay. Gemini loves to talk, it likes to communicate. So a lot of out of the blue, even being very spontaneous about learning, a lot of learning about the basics online too. So yeah, so that's what you have for the general vibe in the sky. Now, when Saturn, because Saturn's going to retrograde and it's hugging Neptune and they're in love. Okay. This means that dissolvement and boundaries, because Neptune makes things disappear. You're going to see that clearly. It may not be disappearing. So the limitations may be stronger. Okay. Or it just may be gone, period. Okay. So be aware of that. In Aries, this could be happening fast. This could be something that's very personal. This could be very impulsive. And Saturn says stronger walls. Neptune says dissolve the walls. Just make them go away. Okay. So some people may be feeling confused. Now, I do want you to understand that Saturn and Neptune coming together, that happens like every 36 years. Okay. So this conjunction is not rare. However, what is interesting is that it's going to be at 0 degrees and then it's going to be at 29 degrees. Now, that is rare. Okay. So get ready for that. There's some warning about how you feel, how the collective feels, the compassion. And even when you're dealing with governments or people who are very limiting, all that energy could be very strong. So be aware for the limited confusion. That's what I have in my limited confusion or lifted confusion. And now there is a very serious, you have to be accountable, or maybe there'll be some lifted confusion. Like, okay, prime example, Jeffrey Epstein, right? It's like he's just, oh, everything's fine. You know what? Actually, he's not even guilty, right? Now, wait a minute. we can see past what you're giving us. We're not confused. You can't just throw out energy like that and just think we're going to confuse. No, Neptune's retrograde. We see beyond the BS. Now, when Saturn retrogrades, will there be accountability? Maybe not. That is a prime example of what that is. Okay. Now you're talking about war because we're talking about Aries and peace. Neptune represents the peace and love, everyone. So there may be no boundaries with the war and peace. Just be aware of that. Aries rules war, aggression, and leaders. Saturn rules the structure, the government, the rules, and Neptune, the illusion, the fog. Okay. Now there could be some revisiting of that because we are retrograding. So it could be some revisiting. Maybe there's some false justifications when it comes to violence. Maybe there's some rethinking of the war that could be happening. A lot of deceitful leaders. That energy is going to be lifted, but will they be accountable? Will there be limits? No. Identity confusion. Aries, right, is the self. And now Neptune is lost in the sauce of the self. Okay. So people are probably going to be more aware of their self. However, the long term consequences are not consequencing. Okay. So that could be happening like the ego, the false identity of the ego is like there, but it's like you're not being accountable or there's no long term consequences to that. Okay. I just want you to understand the importance of Saturn. Period. Okay. Saturn is going to give you the consequence. When it's retrograding, are you getting the consequence or is the consequence too strong? It will be either or. Or maybe Saturn retrograding will make you rethink these consequences. Okay. Especially when it comes back direct, because it's going to come back and not retrograding and come back to the same themes. Okay. So write down what's going on currently. Okay. If you write down what's going on currently, then when you see when it comes back, this theme is going to come back for you. Okay. Okay. There's going to be an illusion, being lost in the sauce or confused. That one thing is going to happen, but with quick fixes. Okay. So anything that's like, Neptune in Aries is like you're lost in a sauce of anything that's very impulsive. Again, I can only think of Ozempic. I'm trying to not to think of okay. So like we'll use Ozempic as an example. Not saying you're taking Ozempic, but think about it. This is a quick fix to losing weight, and you could be romanticizing that. Now that it's retrograding, you're not going to be romanticizing that, and Saturn's going to make you rethink about your long-term decisions because that is something you have to be disciplined about, and that's Saturn represents that discipline. Okay. So anything dealing with your self-image, how you view yourself, your fitness, using your physical energy, you're revisiting that. Okay. So it's like, why did I rush through that? What am I thinking? What am I doing? Yeah. So you have that. Now, spiritual burnout. That Neptune represents spirituality. The burnout is in Aries, and that Saturn is like you're too serious. Okay. Now, I am all here for spiritual boundaries, 100%. But maybe some people were too extreme. Okay. So now it's like, were you too serious about your religion? Were you too serious about your spirituality? And I know you don't want to hear that. Because it's like Saturn is in Pisces. Okay, just of Pisces. So, but maybe there will be a lesson on that, on like, okay, you were being too extreme. Okay. You got to rework your faith or you got to shake your spiritual beliefs. Something like that could be possibly happening. Okay. The self delusion exposed. I talked about that, uncovering illusions about the self, and Saturn asking you to be accountable, wake up, maybe some personal wake up calls there. Now, as far as the collective with karma, okay. This could be not necessarily a group, just a collective energy. Saturn is a very social planet. It happens with the collective. Okay. So there could be some karma coming for a collective energy. We have that independence and control. Saturn in Aries retrograde is about karma, autonomy, leadership, rage, selfishness. When it's conjunct that Neptune and retrograding with Neptune, seeing through the facade of the lone wolf, seeing the identity of a false savior. Yeah, like this leader, let's say it was Trump. Okay, just using Trump as an example. No one get offended. I'm just using Trump as an example. Let's say you were like, oh, Trump was the greatest leader, and now that facade is being lifted. You're able to see clearly, okay? You're able to see the seriousness of certain things. And I'm not saying I'm not a Trump supporter, or I am. I just want you to understand, okay? So yeah, so that is what we have now. Saturn and Neptune, they're both in Aries and they're both going to go into Pisces. That's going to change a lot of unfinished business on things that you need to release and you need to forgive. Pisces represents a lot of endings, it represents a lot of death, it represents the secrets, things that are very unknown, you didn't see it coming, and all that energy. We're going to see some secrets 100% being revealed. Also, too, you're going to see some responsibility around spirituality, collective grief. You're going to see some boundaries, and they were lost in the sauce, and that will probably be coming back up. And I'm talking about how people are talking about the devil and music, how Beyonce and her music. This is a personal belief. I'm very aware of when I start to be a little biased. Okay, how that maybe there'll be more awareness if you weren't aware of how people just treat her like a god. Okay, Beyonce is very talented. I'm not scared of the beehive. Okay, Beyonce is very talented. Yes, however, is there a romanticizing of that? That Neptune in Pisces and that Saturn in Pisces is going to bring that up. Oh, perfect example here, because I'm allowed to talk about this person, can't talk about the other person. But let's talk about P. Diddy and Jay-Z. Well, it's going back in Pisces. So let's see the awareness and some things coming up with that. Epstein is another example, because you're talking about the secrets and sexuality and sex and pedophilia. All that is that Pisces energy, because it's secrets. It's very, very, it gets a little Scorpio. Okay, that's Pluto and Aquarius, but those things will be more aware. Let me see: spiritual downloads, endings, last wave of a collective illusions. What is the collective Delulu about? When it hits Pisces, we'll be more aware, okay? How to prepare when Saturn and Neptune slides back into Pisces. You want to strengthen your emotional boundaries. You want to review your spiritual beliefs and your commitments. Tie up any loose ends from the past, okay? Just know that. Now, aspects that we have here. Let me pull back up this chart here. And some aspects. Where is it? Sure. Oh, here we go. Oh, okay, some aspects here that we have. First of all, we already talked about conjunction. Okay, so that's very important. What we didn't talk about is that it's sextile Uranus in Gemini, and it's also sextile Pluto retrograding in Aquarius. This here is called a minor grand trine. Okay, and this is very positive. Okay, you're talking about you have to put in some actions when it comes to this Saturn and Neptune energy, when it comes to trying to have some awareness and the fog being lifted of the self and your ego, or being brave or being pessimistic about the self. Okay, so you have some great energy here. God has put this out here. However, you have to do the work. Okay, anytime you have sextiles means you have to do the work. So everything that I mentioned in this video, there is an alignment with the stars that God has created. Okay, my personal opinion, with the stars when it comes to communication, when it comes to basic learning. There's God has put this out here for you that is going to help. This is very highly intellectual energy, very advanced technology, futuristic AI, in the name of communication, in an email, in a text message, in socializing, in the basics of it, especially at 0 degrees, very pure. That's working for you. Also, what's working for you is this Pluto retrograding, right? Pluto represents the transformation, the intensity, things that are very taboo, that P. Diddy, Epstein energy. You also have that too. Okay, let me see if okay. So I just want you to understand. Aquarius energy, Uranus energy, that's social media, that's AI, that's technology. And there's no limitations here. There's no boundaries. So if you were limited when you Googled something, guess what? Google it now. That sucker's you're gonna be able to find that research, okay? Especially when it starts to retrograde. This is July 12th, okay? Any type of transformation, any type of secrets, that's going to be lifted too. That's going to help out for you, okay? Let me see. A reconstruction of authority, new models and leadership, rebellion meets responsibility, interactive, activists being awakened. Aquarius represents the rebellion and all that, okay? There is also too a wide trine. Let me see if I control this. I'm scared to press a button. There is also to a wide trine to Jupiter here. Here is this energy here, and Jupiter, there's a wide trine. Now, this was more on the 17th, but currently, when it will be the 12th, let me try to put it there. There will be a wide trine here to Jupiter. Okay. Jupiter is a benefic planet. It is the planet that is very optimistic. It's the good luck planet. And yeah, so when you have, not a wide trine, sorry, it's a square. Square is no bueno. Okay. Cardinal square. So this means anything that you're starting new, there is going to be a challenge there. Now, Jupiter, like I was saying earlier, is a benefic planet. It's positive. So anything type of time that Jupiter is involved, even if it has a negative aspect, because square is a negative aspect, then it seems like it's going to be bad. But however, in the long run, or when it changes, or when you get that lesson, it will be positive. Okay. So, for example, let's say you're gaining weight, because Jupiter will make you gain weight. That Jupiter can make you gain weight, but when you gain weight, you go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, you've been gaining too much weight. You need to be on a diet. That's going to that's going to change your life. So it's something like that. I hope that's a good example. Okay. Let me see what else. Overextending yourself, testing your values. You have big dreams, but they're too big, and now you need to face reality. Okay. You're thinking about the bigger picture, and maybe it needs to be more condensed. But just know the major themes here is dealing with Aries. Aries is about leadership. It's about the self. And then Gemini is also involved here. And with that Uranus, it's all about communication. It's all about adaptability and being very mutable. Okay. Also, restructuring society. That's at Aquarius and Pluto. Get ready for that energy. And nurturing and belonging is that Cancer energy, Jupiter in Cancer. These are all the things that are going to be happening while we have this retrograde. Okay. Now, I pulled some cards here while before I did this video, while I was doing my notes in this, I pulled some cards here. And the first card that I pulled is the Two of Pentacles. And then I pulled the Temperance here. Okay. Temperance, if you see, well, I'll point out in a minute. And then I pulled the Two of Cups. Okay. What I immediately saw is a duality. I saw two things. Okay. And when I saw two things, I'm like, wow, this is like repeating. It happens two times. So a repetition, something that is already happening to you, it's happening again. It's probably happening currently as it's happening. That retrograde is going to make you repeat some stuff. Okay. Maybe there's two truths, maybe there's two timelines, maybe it's like a push and pull, maybe it's like you're impulsive, but then you have to be disciplined, like the opposite too, because that duality can also represents the complete opposite at the same time. Yeah, so you have that. That's one thing that I saw with this, but also too, when you have the Two of Pentacles, this is multitasking. This is like commitment issues. Okay. It's going to stir up a lot of emotions here. Okay. If you're not committed, if you're not in it for the long run, it's not going to work. You can't juggle it. Okay. So choose consistency over chaos. All right. Ground your ambitions and your ability. Now, the Temperance is the card of healing. Where I saw the duality here, normally in the Temperance card in a regular tarot deck, he has 1 foot on land, 1 foot on water. So that's like connection to grounding and connection to healing. Okay. But this is about moderation. That Jupiter, this is also the card that could represent Jupiter and Sagittarius, and that Jupiter in the sign Cancer is saying that there could be some healing, some empathy involved, some divine timing. Okay. So it's about healing and not rushing. Okay. Blend your passions with patience. Reassess any themes of the self, any things of the first. Okay. And then lastly, we have the Two of Cups. And the Two of Cups, again, you have that duality, but this is like a soul agreement. This is like you're mirroring your behavior. This is like you and your relationship with God, or any type of karmic contract. So the relationships formed here, they're going to be tested. Okay. And you got to pay attention to your karma. You got to pull that energy. You got to have positive energy, or it will not be coming back to you. Okay. You got to learn how to reciprocate what it is giving. What are you giving to them? They're going to give to you. That is karma. Okay. There has to be trust. There has to be alignment. Saturn is like, okay, is a relationship balance? Is it equal? Saturn is saying, what are the replications? What are the consequences here if you're not putting in the long run energy, or if you're not having great karma, great juju. Are you being responsible with your collaborations? Are you being responsible with your relationship to God? Are you being responsible with your true values and your morals? Okay. So a lot of slowing down. If you're here, you're getting these readings. Oh, I see comments. Hello. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I got a new system here. Hi, Danielle. Been listening. Thumbs up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I see this here. It's like you're still writing something here. Taking notes. Yes, take your notes. Thank you so much for commenting. I really appreciate that. But yes, overall, the overall themes here is what I have is a lot of slowing down. I want you to know that God has put a lot of positivity out in the universe. You have to put in a work. Okay. So you got to work on the communication. You got to read all those emails, read those text messages, socialize, ask questions, curiosity. That's that Gemini energy. That's working for us with any of these themes of Saturn and Neptune. Okay. And then on the other side, the intensity, the things that are very taboo, all the technology in the future, all this is going to work for us in a positive. Okay. So remember, Saturn retrograding in Aries isn't here to punish, it is here to make sure you really are serious. Did you learn the lessons? Are you ready? What you say you want, do you truly want? Okay. So don't fight your goals. You have to train them. You have to learn the lessons. You have to be here for the challenges. And if you need any more guidance on this retrograde and you want more, you want a personal reading, I have some availability. Also, if you join my community, you can ask any questions. I'm here for it. And yes, so see you in the next one. I do want you to know that I did the Saturn retrograding Aries what is it, toolkit, and that is in my recent post for the group. So if you haven't seen that, if you're part of my group, go ahead and check that out. All right. Yes. Yeah, that is what I have. Let me see.
Bye bye. Bye.